Neither snow nor rain stay the longing to grow things for the gardener. We desire to get our hands dirty and bring food and flowers up from the soil. I'm Marcy McDonald with Pacific Northwest Suburban Homesteading, and today I'm going to share my method for indoor seed starting on this cold, wet February day. Last week I showed the garden planting process. Now let's get started planting. Okay, preparing to plant, then planting. So once you've done your planning, the next step is to actually write down what you're going to plant and for whom. So this is 2025. So I'm going to start with my sister. So for Jen, let's start with the peppers that she wants. And it looks like she wants some basil too. So she wants 2 bell. Which one should we do for her? So I've got Peace Bell, King of the North, Bullnose, California Wonder. Let's do King of the North. This is how Jen's looks for this season. I continued on and did the same for everyone else. So once you have made your plan about how many you need, then you need to make your seedling markers. Also, because I'm planning for other people, I color code the seedlings so I make sure I have enough for everybody who wants them. Grab popsicle sticks. Let's start with my sister. I'm just gonna do the peppers because they're the ones that need to be done first. Six early jalapenos. And then I color code them. This makes it much easier that I know whose are whose. I just want to make sure that there's enough. Occasionally my germination isn't great, and then I pick the priority people get the priority peppers. But I almost always have extras because I get good germination and I plant more than one seed just to make sure. Now I've finished making all of my labels and color coded them. Set them aside until I'm ready to plant them. And then I'll sort them by the kind. Now that we have all of our labels marked for today's planting, it's time to fill our little starter pots with seed starting medium. I bought 2x2 pots to use for seed starting. I like the square ones because they neatly fit into my trays. Others use small round pots. If you're on a budget, repurposed single-serve yogurt cups work just fine in my experience. Just make sure you drill or punch a drain hole or 2 in the bottom. I counted how many stakes and then calculated how many pots I would need. So I got that all ready ahead of time. Now we just filled them most of the way up. There are people that start seeds in just regular soil. That's fine. The advantage to using sterile seed starting medium is that it reduces the chance of introducing diseases to your seedlings. It isn't absolutely necessary in most cases, however. I like to use the 4-inch pots because they're a good size to get started and it takes up a small amount of room. So it's manageable for me to maintain them because once I plant the seeds, I leave them in the trays and I'll take them into the atrium in a bit once I'm done planting. And then I spray them. And it's a lot easier to do that early stage while they're germinating with a smaller amount of space I have to spray. Some people use seed starting mats. I do not. In my atrium, I have lights that are full spectrum lights and they tend to be quite warm. So what I do is I take my seed trays and I rotate them and I just pass them down the row. And that generally takes care of it. So I've always had really good luck starting things from seed, which is why I grow so many, because I do so much of my family. Plus, my mother-in-law really likes to plant. We have a large property. And I make tomato sauce, so I go through a lot of tomatoes, and I make tons of peppers. So we freeze some, we make it into Cowboy candy, relish. Used to pickle a bunch, but they just didn't really get eaten, so I don't do that anymore. But I still use a lot of peppers and tomatoes. It gets a bit crowded in my growing space, especially as the tomatoes get bigger. Later, I will plant a bunch of flowers too. So it is much more affordable doing it this way. The seeds I buy are usually under $4 for a packet of about 30. And nursery plants are considerably more than that. Even if you allow for the cost for the potting soil, my pots are reusable. So potting soil, electricity, water, those need to be factored in. But I still think we come out ahead, and I get to pick my varieties. And I have control over how they're cared for. Can't tell you how many times I've gone into nursery section of big box stores and everything's all dried out and looking terrible. It's not really great for the health of your plants overall. Plants are pretty resilient and most of them make it just fine, but why buy a plant that's already been stressed if you can do it yourself? Yeah, I have a fancy place to grow. I have what we call the atrium, because that's what the previous owners called it in the real estate listing. I don't know what you really call it. It's not a large area, but it's not very nicely lighted. We have a skylight. We have a shower curtain we put on because it's light colored, so it's light and bright in here. We have installed lighting and shelving, so we have a place to put the seedlings that I grow and a few other plants that I keep in here. When we first moved in, it was just kind of a barked dirt area, but we put the stones in so we could walk out there, gravel for drainage, and we use space under the shelves for storing things and on the top shelf. I like that it has outside access. I store additional pots on a shelf next to the door. For people who grow on much more sensible or modest means, a sunny window will work just fine. There's kits that you can get, plastic sheeting, enclosed area next to your house, or you can do what a lot of homesteaders do and salvage windows and build a greenhouse, or things called cold frames. Where there's a will to grow things, there is a way. You can even enclose part of a balcony. You don't have to have a lot of space for this. All right, let's get some more soil because I'm kind of running low on my seed storing and stuff. You think I made the hole big enough? There we go. That's more like it. It will all fit. Probably not. Not quite, but that's okay. And this year, I bought a lot of flower seeds. So I'm hoping to start a bunch of flowers that I can put out in the yard. Because it's a strategy both my sister and I have found works extremely well, is to grow flowers intermingled with or nearby our vegetables, and it helps attract pollinators. So I usually say pollinator because there's a lot of honeybees, of course, but honeybees are not actually native to the Americas. They're imported from Europe. This is the European honeybee. But we have all kinds of really cool native bumblebees. I love bumblebees. And we have these little yellow striped flies that do pollinating. There's just so many different kinds of pollinators here. It's pretty exciting. I love being out in the garden watching the pollinators do their work. It's pretty fascinating. And there's other kinds of creatures also that help pollinate. We usually focus on the flying ones that come in and do the nectar thing. Bats in some areas do pollination. Bats are pretty cool. I love bats. We got bats that fly over in the summertime. Sometimes if we're in the pool at dusk, we'll get buzzed by them. So making this firm, but not packed in there. We tried that one year and it was really, really hard to transplant them. These trays hold 50 of these little 2-inch pots. Now that we have our pots filled, I'm gonna sort my popsicle sticks. For instance, poblanos, I'll put all the poblanos together because then I can grab the seed packet and then do all of those at once instead of going back and forth. So I put the towel down to contain the mess. As you can see, it was a good idea. Jalapeno, poblano. Just remembered my mother-in-law asked for more of the habaneros. One of the really nice things about this method is you can see if you're missing something before you get started. Sorting out my labels, I realized I have my habanadas, which are the heatless habaneros. Didn't actually make any labels for the habaneros that I need to plant. Let me check my list. So Jen wanted habaneras. Mom wanted habaneros, but somehow or other I missed that. And I missed that I usually grow some myself, so I need to update my list. All right, so let's correct that. So much easier to fix it for this when I haven't planted yet. So habaneros are now in the pile. Habanero, which you want to change, so let's check the record. 2.5. So I'll need more pots now. I have a couple more, then we'll fit in that tray, but I have other trays. I'll put them in after we finish planting. Okay, all of our pots are full, so let's get started planting seeds. I'm gonna start with the early jalapeno because that's what I have the most of. So the way I usually do it is I put my seeds in the pot first, and then once I have the seeds in the pots and I've covered them over, then I will put the label in. That way I know that I planted in that pot, because a planted pot looks very much like an unplanted pot when you're done. And I want to make sure that I know which is which and I don't miss any. So I have a mangled seed packet. I have no idea what I was doing. These ones are old. And these are from 2021. Well, what I could do, because I have a lot of these and I don't like to waste, and these are relatively large seeds. The general rule of thumb, the larger the seed is, the longer it stays viable. I have scarlet runner beans from several years ago, but I'm confident that if I plant this seed, it'll germinate just fine. Now in contrast, jalapeno peppers are less likely to last as long as the bean, for instance. Gardening advice says to use sterile seed starting medium. You don't need to have a lot of nutrients. You need it to hold on to moisture so they'll germinate. All the nutrients are contained within these eensy beensy little seeds, or in the case of the runner beans, these big seeds. So it stands to reason that a large seed can store more nutrients to give the little tiny sprout waiting dormant inside more of a chance at growing than a little seed, or even really tiny seeds like carrots. Okay, so I have seed that's pretty old. So what I'm thinking is I might stick those in some of the pots because we plant extras anyway. And that way, if they come up, great. If they don't, it doesn't really matter. How many jalapenos do I need to plant? 13 pegs. Oh, I put them kind of in opposite corners. What makes it easier to separate them when it's time to repot. So I'm gonna stick one of these in each of the pots as a bonus seed. All right, so I'll put the remainders back in that seed pack. You know what? I have 3 seed packets from 3 different years. Let's plant one of each in the pots and see what happens. They'll probably all come up and I'll have a gazillion early jalapenos. A nice problem to have. This is kind of the fun part. Just a quiet, kind of meditative process when you're not talking to a camera, that is. Just putting little seeds in little pots, preparing for the growing season ahead. Then my much abused seed packet. Then I'll pick the strongest of these when it comes time to repot. So the seed packets say to just barely cover the seed. They say something like the width of a seed. I think it actually says thickness of a seed. You know what? I could look at the packet. It might actually be a good idea to look at the packet and see what it says. Planting depth 1/4 inch. Okay. So I suppose a little more than just covering. But seriously, there's a lot of wiggle room in this because in the wild, they're going to drop to the ground and then they're going to sprout or they're not. And you don't have ideal conditions when that happens. So I changed my mind. I'm going to put the seeds this way. Because I have 2 seeds and 1 seed. So the tags aren't interfering with the sprouting seeds. My sense of aesthetics and balance require me to put all of the same colored tags together. There is no utilitarian purpose to this. It's just simply my own internal consistency. Since odds are you're not going to be planting seeds for 5 people, you don't need to color code yours. The next stack of tags I have here are habanero. All right, let's find the habanero seeds. So this was for 2020, and this is the new one. Habaneros are really finicky, so I don't think I want to mess around with those. I think I'm just gonna go with the new ones on this one. I'm reasonably confident about the jalapenos because I have really good germination with those. But habaneros, they're a finickier pepper. I'm gonna do 2 in each of those because again, I won't have any trouble getting new homes for them if both seeds sprout. So 5, 7. Okay, we're good. 1/4 inch. So those are the same as the jalapenos. All right, next customer. Okay, so 1 more hot pepper. And these are a little bit different. These are purple jalapenos. I'm doing this experiment with developing my own purple variety because I haven't been able to find them available through any of the seed companies that I like to buy from. So I save seeds. But they come out in several different varieties. You have ones that the plants are nice and dark, kind of a purpley hue even on the leaves. The stems are purple, the flowers are purple, the fruit is purple. And then you have the ones on the other end, which look pretty much like other jalapenos, only the fruit is purple. And in between that, you get ones that have white flowers, or you get ones with purple flowers. You have ones that have the dark stems but have green leaves. They're almost an ornamental variety, and I'm looking for purple plants, purple fruit, and it all tastes good. I saved some seed, and I'm gonna just plant those. And then I have ones that I saved, which are test ones, because they ended up left on the counter and dried. I'm not entirely sure whether they were purple jalapenos or whether they're early jalapenos or some kind of cross between them by pollination, cross-pollination. So I'm gonna start a couple of each of these and then we'll see what we get. Okay, so these are the ones that I just saved straight up. Because these are so iffy, I'm gonna plant 3 of each in the pot. Purple jalapenos are a hybrid. When you do a hybrid, it doesn't necessarily come out true in the offspring when you save seeds. A hybrid, when you buy them or at the seed company, they know what they're gonna get. But when you save seed, because it's genetics, you could get any combination, hence the different purple jalapenos I was talking about. So these little gems here are just a mishmash of the different DNA possibilities, which is very exciting. But because I'm trying to develop purple plants, purple fruit, because darn it, I like purple. And Scott says they're really delicious, and I end up using them just like I do my early jalapenos, which I did a lot of. We want lots and lots of jalapenos because we want to make lots and lots of Cowboy candy relish. For those who are interested, I'll have a link in the description so you can go look up the recipes for the Cowboy candy relish that I mentioned. Let's see if I can get back in here without putting a bunch of dirt in the pocket. Was too busy talking to you all, not really paying attention to what I was doing. Cover those up. So if all sprouts, I'm gonna have 6 purple jalapenos of some sort. So what I do is when I repot them, I look for the purplest seedlings, and those are the ones I usually put my tag with when I put them in the 4-inch pots. It'll take a lot of years before I have a stable product or stable plants. But I like jalapenos. It's fun. It's interesting. It's like it's test ones. I'm going to put 2 in each pot. I always think I'm going to plant less so I don't have a lot of extras. You can see how well that's working. You know, in a true scientific experiment, you need to have a large enough sample size to be statistically valid. But I'm a home gardener and I'm doing home experiments, so it's more like it's kind of a proof of concept. I'm not writing any scientific papers or anything, but it does give me a pretty good indication of whether whatever I'm testing works or not. All right, now we're getting into some of the exciting sweet pepper varieties. Let's put that tray aside and finish up with a new tray. It won't take long to wrap this up. Put the tags in there and we are done for today. Well, done for this part today. Our next step is to take these trays and take them to the atrium where we will water them, and then we wait for them to sprout. The next part you need to do with seedlings is you have to water them. But with seedlings, they can be washed out of the soil if you just water them with a water wand or a watering can or any other kind of thing. So a few years back, Scott got me a really useful tool. These are intended for any number of things like liquid fertilizer or herbicides and any number of things you need to spray. But they're super handy for keeping your seedlings misted because you don't want seedlings to dry out. A dried out seedling is a dead seedling. When I first plant them, I go through and I mist the tops, and then I will use my other tool, a watering can. This one has a small spout. This is really super useful for watering my plants by filling the trays. Especially when you start out with really dry soil like I started with in my seed starting medium. You don't want it to draw the water out that we use with the mister to put on top of the seeds. So I water from underneath. I put about 1/4 to 1/2 inch of water in the bottom of the trays that the pots are in. So the wicking action will draw the water up through the soil to keep the soil nice and wet, not too wet. So I don't overwater. I just check every few days, check the soil by touching it. By having it wet all the way through, I can mist the tops so we can keep the seeds evenly moist, which is essential for good germination. Now, a regular squirt bottle works just fine, but it just takes forever on this scale. But feel free to use what you have. I'm gonna soak it down really good so it settles the seeds. Soil on top of the seeds. You want to fill it completely up, and then I'll check daily to make sure that they don't dry out. It takes time, but starting your own seeds is worth the effort. All you need is a little space and patience, and you can grow all kinds of plants that you can't easily buy at your nursery, or just save money and know that they are well cared for. I encourage you to give it a try. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to have seedling updates as they sprout and grow. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Until next time, be curious, keep an open mind, and never stop learning.